right, here we go for the final deciding map of this evening. We have to have a winner. Endpoint and mousesports, they've been through the gauntlet. Endpoint got wrecked in the first map, then bounced back on Mirage, and now Dust 2 is our final playground. The knife underway, and it will go the way of mousesports. So let's see what they pick. I'm joined alongside Dust, this best of 3, and we feared the worst after that train performance, but I think we've both been pleasantly surprised by how Endpoint battled back on Mirage.
Oh, absolutely. I think that they have done some great work on Mirage. Obviously, some intense moments that could have gone either way, but they did favor Endpoint in the end. That's why we're here on Dust 2, which is a map that has really failed mousesports lately. This used to be a really big strength of this team, but throughout this year on online play, they have really struggled on Dust 2, including a huge loss to Endpoint just a couple of days ago in the upper bracket. Meanwhile, for Endpoint, I feel like it's been more of a mixed bag. You know, they've had some close losses, they've had some wins, they've also had some blowout losses, so it's been kind of all over the place in this online era for Endpoint and how they are able to perform on Dust 2. So it's a map that has a lot of variance and a lot of spawn-based plays, a lot of crazy antics can take place, so it'll be interesting to see if mousesports can truly get their revenge on this map or whether Endpoint will continue to assert their dominance over mousesports on this particular playing field.
We shall see how this one comes to fruition. What we do know is, after the winning the knife, mousesports elected to start on the CT side. I feel like this is a very even map. Some may even argue T-sided in some circumstances. It is a 50-50 coin flip, as we already touched on Mirage as well. I don't think those stats really tell you much. It depends on the teams. It depends on the context of who they're playing against and how the styles match stylistically. And BMAS from range has dinked, I think, Mighty Max partially through the wall, so he's only dropped down to 16, but did finish off Surreal straight away. And now the wraparound comes into effect as Endpoint looking to spill out towards the B site. They are being carved to pieces, ripped to shreds by this hold, which is looking like it could go flawless unless Flamesy can get some frags, but that will not happen. And mousesports with a declaration of intent. They are here to fight.
Absolutely wrecked, Vince. Absolutely wrecked. All I got. Owned.
And without a bomb plant, Dust, I mean, they don't really have options either. It's interesting that they've gone straight for the force buy, as many teams would do. Some teams even would go for 2 scouts. I wouldn't be surprised if we see that from Mouse if they lose on the T-side pistol. But only Crucial goes for 1 alongside Carrigan. Now, you're taking that scout away from Chris J. A part of me feels a little bit hurt by that, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I don't give Chris J the scout, please. What are you doing? Come on. My luck now, Carrigan will get a 4K with the scout.
Sure, I would love to see it. I think Carrigan is an underrated AWPer. It's just the fact that, you know, a lot of people scratch their heads and think, you've got Chris J on your team. Why would you not unleash him?
Yes. Scout J. That's my boy.
And this also used to be... He used to be like the best player in the world at this map at one point, in my opinion. He was definitely up there. It was a while ago, mind you, but still.
I can see it. As we are seeing Endpoint looking to launch Mighty Max into CT spawn, it seems, trying to see if they can maybe get a little bit catchier and kind of do a little bit of a pincher move on mid, which they are able to do. Smoke blocking the vision of the A players, and now it's all going to come down to B-side defenders who are hiding inside the site itself.
The great Molotov tossed in, but so is that HE. Rops had 1 HP left. And Surreal going for it. Now the Tech 9 spray is good onto Frozen, and that could be the save coming into play straight away. It is a brutal site to retake, as you touched on Mirage. B-site Mirage, B-site Dust 2, both really grim. So already 2 players backing off. They want to keep this M4 alive above all else. Scout at range for Carrigan, and then the MP9 for Chris J, who is actually perched up for some exit frags. So he'd like to get involved and maybe take a few of these players down and build up that cash nicely. We'll have to see which side Endpoint decide to push out of. They already have mid control, so it wouldn't be completely out of the realms of possibility that all 5 players draw back towards mid, knowing that that's safe and that's what's happening. And it's the correct call.
Sure.
It's a smart call from Endpoint.
Absolutely. So you will see Chris J try to, peek into B, see if anything happens to be around. Maybe see if he can reclaim something. But no one's really going to give him a shot there. Really great B pinch there from Endpoint. I mean, I really liked it. I mean, they put the pressure up catwalk that keeps the A players in place. They use the smoke and flash to drop a player down in the CT spawn, which is the main place that would support the B defense. Found that was clear when they just trampled up the site, knowing that both defenders would be in the site itself. And mousesports always had to worry about also, you know, B tunnels maybe coming in and pinching them. So they can never feel comfortable focusing their full attention on door and window. So it was a well-designed execute there from Endpoint on a low buy, and it nets them a huge result, tying this game up right away, giving them economic advantage.
2 scouts. Neither of them in the hands of Chris J. Please.
This is actually now a crime that needs to be reported to the local authorities that Chris J has not been allowed to scout.
Does have the MP9 up close on long, however. Maybe just trusting his prowess in this position as opposed to the scout. Obviously, using a scout in this spot would be a dire circumstance. Robin getting Rops, who goes aggressively, looking for information through B tunnels. Information gathered, but it's not worth the cost of his life, ultimately.
I mean, to be fair, maybe Chris J's had a better spawn to push up close to the MP9 on doors. That's why they gave it to him and kept Kerrigan on the scout. Makes a lot of sense from that perspective. All about timing on this map. Really got to take advantage of your spawn to try to get the timings, as we are going to see that catwalk cross come into play. A nice tag there from Kerrigan. He's got support on the ramp as well. Flashes are slowing Endpoint down. They're trying to battle through it, though.
Doing a good job of battling through it thus far. Chris J can now trade up to the M4. Comes in for the peak, gets one, and that's down to Kerrigan, and maybe that's why he holds on to the scout. Maybe that's why he wants to keep the weapon, because he just threads the needle of the eye, takes the very tip of the head clean off the shoulders. And now can go in for more and does connect onto Flamesy, and so does Mighty Max. He peeks out slowly against Kerrigan, who is on fire right now with the scout. At mousesports, not only weather the storm, they keep 2 players alive and they can trade up to AKs. That's a beautiful result.
It's actually unreal. I think, what did I say earlier? Watch me, my luck, Kerrigan will get like a 4K with this guy. It's pretty close. He got 3. We'll give it to him. I've been shamed. Fair enough. What's new? As mousesports steal one away there from Endpoint. Very well done on handling that A-site cross. Getting Chris J in a good position on the ramp. Kerrigan always feeling comfortable at long with the scout. Never really felt the pressure from long A doors. Never had to worry about his backside. Able to just focus up and deliver some great shots with the scout. Now Chris J's on just a deagle. What? How's that? Couldn't someone have dropped the gun that they upgraded?
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Maybe just keeping some money in surplus, but I mean, surely you focus on the round now.
Didn't Kerrigan upgrade to an AUG? So there is a scout somewhere, right?
I'm not entirely sure, mate. Maybe it's just a lapse. Maybe he picked
up the fallen AUG from someone else in the previous round. I didn't quite catch that. But yeah, I am surprised Chris J doesn't have anything to work with in this round with the Deagle, but, you know, not that big of a deal.
It does have the Deagle up close with the bait and switch with Kerrigan, so maybe just feeling like up close the Deagle can shred people, which is definitely the case. He has the aim to pull it off. More concerned if he has to retake with a Deagle. That's where we're going to be seeing a little bit of an interesting development, but may not be required. Smoke and Molly exchanged on catwalk, delaying the push a little bit longer. There's a second incendiary tossed in from B-Mass, who's now watching the cross from middle towards B.
Yeah, it's pretty good defense set up here for mousesports. They pretty much have all their bases covered. The only thing that could worry them is if a drop down CT spawn catches B-Moss on the backside. Other than that, though, they're as formed up as they can be. Utility comes out from Endpoint to try to waylay onto the site, but the counter flashes are good.
B-Mass never stood a chance, but neither did Kerrigan. Looking across with the AK-47, they tried to stall and mitigate these pushes for as long as possible, but once those incendiaries cleared, so were the HP bars of the A defenders, and this is really where we're talking about. Like, Chris J with a Deagle at this stage, pretty rough. He is still going in for this, interestingly. They're having a shot at taking this site back. They do have a kit in the hands of Frozen. Rops has been spotted. Meanwhile, Chris J getting up close with his Deagle, maybe looking for some exits. I think they're pulling the plug on trying to win this round outright. Chris J missing. Chris J still missing with the Deagle. Needs to land a shot. Any shot would have done. That's a very low HP Mighty Max that maybe dies anyway to Frozen. Indeed does just that. But the round is lost. Endpoint pick up their second.
Yeah, just good utility on the site from Endpoint, but I also feel like B-Moss kind of got stuck in no man's land. Like, he was making the transition through CT spawn to try to help reinforce the A defense. You had Kerrigan play in the corner, who probably got flashed at some point and wasn't able to really get some good shots off on the cross. But I feel like B-Moss getting caught in that weird gray area where he was trying to transition to A ramp but couldn't quite make it is really what kind of broke open the B bomb site for Endpoint. So great round for them to keep this even. It's now traded tit for tat, round for round. 2-2 is the score. Economy fragile for both these teams at this point. Very important round now ahead of us to determine who is going to be able to get that slight economic edge rolling forward. As again, mousesports time and time again have done a good job controlling long A and always feeling safe that they can hold that position for retakes for later, which is great. So it's up to Endpoint to respond.
Endpoint maybe responding in kind with bullets. Braced arms. Mousesports in the meanwhile trying to flash their way into a peak, and that will be with Chris J, but instead he runs into the blender of Surreal and Crucial. With AKs in hand, they spray him out without any issues at all, putting more pressure on these defenders. BMAS watching up, Smoke and Molotov there to greet him. He can't even get close to the site to try and repel this push. And now they may even think about just pulling back. They know the bomb plant is going to be forthcoming, and there's very little they can do. Their economy in no place to justify going for this. This could just cripple them economically if they went in and lost. And with Carrigan running in and dying, that kind of comes to light. Bemis is last man standing alongside Frozen, who's put in some damage, but only one player has fallen in the form of Crucial. And now surely you just get the hell out of there, Dust. I mean, this is done.
Oh, yeah. Stick a fork in it, for sure. You can see that, you know, mousesports were trying to play forward on Catwalk and maybe even getting aggressive on Xbox at middle and trying to see if they could build some type of crossfire play, but Endpoint able to battle through all that. I mean, look at the bodies here on the stairwell. Just, I mean, it always makes sense at times on CT side to just double up on Catwalk and try to play forward and try to deny that space. I mean, we've seen Endpoint time and time again getting pretty comfortable positioning on stairs and setting up the onslaught of utility to lay into that A bomb site or maybe even drop down in the CT spawn like we saw in their eco round in the second round of the game. So it stands to reason that mousesports would want to change things up, be dynamic on their defense. And while they've often been able to control long A aggressively in their earlier rounds, you want to change it up as best you can and try to face off at Cat as well and keep the offense guessing. But it was just that particular situation didn't work out for them. Endpoint was able to battle through that well, and now they're going to get the 3-2 lead, and they have, you know, mousesports on essentially a save. Give them a great chance to build their lead. Chris J and Frozen already tagged heavily at middle.
Crucial doing excellent work, spamming both of them through the wall, the doors. Both will be feeling worse for wear. We have a Zeus in play, and that's going to make you happy, Dust.
Oh, you don't even know. You really don't. You'll never fully understand the joy I feel when I hear the Zeus pop off, and you just hear that one lonely model just go, ah! That's a good impression, by the way. I stand by that.
A little too good, if you ask me.
Yeah. If Valve wants to give me a call, the voice line, future stuff for Counter-Strike, just hit me up. I can make good sound effects.
Ooh, overkill. Carrigan. Headshot from Crucial's AWP. Plenty of damage inflicted. More than enough to kill 3 or 4 players. And now Chris J is going in with that USP. Already low HP. 11 HP to his name. Not too much of a hope of getting anything done. And there you go, Dust. It's happened.
Can I get the side-by-side comparison? Because I feel like I was pretty spot on. As this bomb is going to get planted by Endpoint. They still should win the round, but there's a couple of AKs out there now all of a sudden. It's low health. Sure, but Frozen does have a kit. There is still all of a sudden a chance for mousesports to maybe pry this one open.
Prying it open, but also at the same time, they have low HP on 2 of the players. They have 2 AKs that will be useful and valuable later on in the half if they can interject and use them against Endpoint. So I feel like a save makes a bit more sense. Obviously, Chris J is expendable. He's got the USP. You don't really care if he lives or dies at this point with that, as long as he can do a bit of damage on his way out.
I think that was one of those conditionals where if they could have gotten a very quick pick immediately, they might have jumped on it. Especially if Chris J could have found his way into a weapon. But once they were unable to pick up on that quick kill, then it just made way more sense to go ahead and save these AKs over. Now they'll have a nice full buy for the most part. I mean, they might be a little bit sparse. I mean, they're not going to have the AWP, obviously. Oh, never mind. They are actually able to afford one. So they got the AWP over on Kerrigan. They have pretty decent utility as well. So, yeah, it's a pretty good buy all in all. So not bad economically in that round, at least for mousesports, to have Rops get the taser kill and roll over some AKs.
Have to do something with them, though, Dust. Sure. It's great getting them in the first place, but what can you get done? Can you get results? That's all that matters. And Flamesy, straight out of the fire, the flames, gets headshot from Surreal, who couldn't take any risks, couldn't take any quarter given at all. But in doing so, he's put his team behind by a player as he gets nullified by Karrigan's AWP. Really awkward. I don't blame him, though. Like you have to see it from his perspective. If he doesn't pull the trigger and that player in pit kills them both, they're like, well, why didn't you shoot? It's a really horrible situation to be in. And now Crucial with the AK. Well, pardon me, Rops with the AK. Going to be taking down Crucial. So mousesports, they do make use of those 2 AKs. They actually have made it stick, and they've got 2 ups for themselves now.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those situations that Dust 2 sometimes presents where both teams have a pretty good spawn for long A, and so they're going to clash in some type of 2-on-2 or 3-on-3 battle with utility mixed in, and it can get rather chaotic really fast, and it can sometimes be really hard to kind of factor in everything and know what the best decision is to make or exactly how to face things. And in that particular moment, Endpoint was able to get a lot going at first, but then the TK from Surreal onto Flamesy, and a couple of the things kind of went awry afterwards, and then that just changed everything in the blink of an eye. That is kind of Dust 2 for you, though, in a nutshell. And you have these spawn-based plays from both teams at the same time. Things get messy, and I don't think you can really fault anyone for it. It's just how it goes sometimes.
Molly and Flash out. Oh no! Oh, Chris J missed it. I think he was flashed when he tried to throw the smoke, and so it screwed him up completely.
That was an amazing utility combination from Flamesy. Definitely pick up on that for your solo queue gameplay. It's really cool to pull that one off if you think they're playing close corner.
With that pick onto Chris J with the flash and Molotov combination, puts A that little bit more vulnerable. 2 players now in there. It's going to be Karrigan joined alongside BMAS. They don't really have too much long control because Karrigan is basically alone, and as soon as they start to execute on A, he will turn his attention towards the site alongside BMAS. Hold on a second, what the hell just happened there? Crucial, what? Oh, is he DC'd, maybe?
I do not know.
I think maybe he's DC'd in order to pick up a grenade. Otherwise, I have no idea what the hell just happened because he wasn't even in the line of sight. Robin comes right out through with a kill, but now they're getting shut down. If that is a DC, that is such brutal timing. Flamesy from the backside doing work, though, keeping this round alive just about. 7 seconds. Bomb is being planted, and Endpoint get it done. In the dying embers of the round, Flamesy with a 4K, and Robin gets the last, and indeed, Mighty Max did DC, so what a performance and effort to pull that off.
Yes, I mean, that's one of those situations where it feels like a nightmare when like a key player that has utility that you need to go for the hit or, something along those lines, you have to go for the team kill just to try to salvage any hope of the round. And obviously it's going to put you behind in a lot of situations, but they were able to still kind of just make things happen. And so now Endpoint are up 5-3. mousesports, low economy on a couple of their players, still could likely put something together this round, though, with Rops having, mid 7K. But Endpoint are starting to really find their rhythm here on their T side, Dust 2. And certainly this is a map where if you're consistently able to tee off on your spawn-based plays and you're able to exercise control of Stairwell, more often than not, you're going to have a lot of success because it makes CTs have a difficult time understanding how to rotate. Because in the blink of an eye, a T team that has control of Catwalk can very easily just cross A side. They could very easily drop down the CT spawn. They could very easily double back and go mid B. And so as a CT team, it becomes really tough because you have to make a lot of really rapid decisions that have a lot of weight under a lot of stress, because you have to think to yourself, do I want to rotate into no man's land just under elevator and try to assist the A defense? Do I want to position myself in CT spawn to try to help cover a crossfire on middle to help against the mid B attack? Do I want to just play behind the smoke and play for retake B? The 2 Bs have to finish, have to decide whether or not they want to split 1-1, one watching mid, one watching B, or push in the B tunnels, or just give up mid entirely and just focus on defending the site. Like, there's a lot of hard decisions you have to make on CT Dust 2 that isn't necessarily always the case on other maps. And it makes it very, very hard to be consistent defensively on this map, especially if your economy gets into a bad way. I mean, that hurts you on any map, and it just gets multiplied even more, I feel like, on Dust 2. Especially with the B-bomb side being so hard to retake, which we've talked about a lot. Which now, to be fair, they have reversed the doors on B. So that makes it to where at least you can kind of angle out a little bit better on the B retake to kind of, you know, not have to commit to the site and be able to like check things like B tunnels entrance and maybe even get a quick peek on car. So don't get me wrong, there has been some factors that have evolved to kind of change things a little bit, but still very difficult map defensively.
Oh, and hopefully Alex. Sorry, I said Alex because I just typed him in chat. Max.
Oh, is Alex watching?
Yeah.
Nice.
Obviously, eagle-eyed with the Cloud9, you know, scouting the plays.
Yeah, he's getting his work. He's earning his paycheck right away before he even steps onto the server, observing his opposition. As they will be primarily a European-based team, at least for now. I know eventually they will be moving and being based in LA, I believe, from what I've heard from Henry and content. But initially, they will be very much focused on playing within the European region, I would imagine. Although I guess Flashpoint's kind of one of their first big tournaments. I'm not sure how that's going to go with season 2 of that. I think it's still kind of up in the air with all the scheduling situations with the major, you know, being delayed and yeah.
Well, listen, Dust, I've put our names forward to be their +2. I think we got a pretty good chance, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just be the bullet sponge. I'll go in first and tag, you know, take all the bullets so that Alex and the rest of the troops can direct everyone. Yeah, I was gonna say
her performance yesterday.
After you getting banged out in a duel yesterday, can we feasibly say that you're the one forward? Maybe it does need to be dualism.
I think I could be a really solid assistant coach.
I think you'd smash it as like an analyst with data, man. I really do.
Maybe
for a team, I think you'd be great with that kind of stuff. But I don't know how exciting it would be for you.
Not very.
Don't quite know what's going on with Max here, guys, so we'll just fill in until he does come back. Hopefully it's nothing too serious.
Do we run the ultimate risk of an AMA with chat? Probably not going to be easy to do with the delay.
Right, I was about to say, yeah, we could. So it's going to be like 150. Actually, I'll type now. If I type in chat, people can ask questions, and then by the time it comes around, they'll hear our responses. Hopefully it won't be too long. So just fill in a bit of time there, Dust, while I type, because, you know, I'm an old man. Got to get my fingers limbered up. Sounded really weird out of context, didn't it?
Didn't know you had to get your fingers limbered up to type. I know you can get them limbered up for other things, but yeah, you know.
He's dug himself into a ditch. Well, listen, no, I've been playing bass a long time, man, and after a while, your fingers do start to, like, you start to get some wear and tear. It's true. Mm-hmm. It is true.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I can ask you a question then regarding the whole Cloud9 thing. Who would you like to see as one of their +2?
Ooh, I think right now, if I'm looking at it, you have Alex as the in-game leader, who will probably also be some type of entry rifler, or at least a part of the main control group, right? The one taking map control or main part of the execute, right? You have Voxic, who's very clearly going to be the primary op of the team. And then I don't know anything about Mezzy, but from the way he's being described, he's supposed to be more of like a kind of solo player, like more supportive, more kind of just playing the periphery of the map, you know, maybe relaying information, taking some control for himself, and, you know, not necessarily like known as an entry fragger. So if that's the case, it would stand the reason that Cloud9 probably need to be looking at secondary entry type players to pair up with Alex and Voxic for the main executes and stuff like that. And then just one other like really stable rifler to kind of just shore everything up. And I think that if this team is going to be primarily European, then honestly, like the names that make the most sense to me, which again, I don't know like who's actually attainable with contracts and buyouts and interest levels and all that stuff. But if I'm just like flying by what seems to make sense, if it's true that Nico's going to leave FaZe and that team's falling apart, bro, I'd go get Rain in a heartbeat. And if not that, I think like Shush from Mad Lions would be a good shout. Obviously, any of the Danish talents that are sitting out there would be good shouts. Like any of the, like, you know, like I'm not sure what this whole situation with the Strauss running like a 6-7 man roster, if you could eventually pull one of those guys over. But yeah, I mean, that's some of the names that come out to me.
I think that's fair. I think that's good deduction as well. Alex, I support Newcastle. How about you? Where I'm asking that question. Favorite pizza topping, Dust?
I just want to troll everyone.
Don't say pineapple, please. Did you actually say it?
Honestly, bro, let me tell you the pizza that I've been eating lately. If anyone's in America, that knows Mellow Mushroom. It's like a chain restaurant, but it doesn't feel like a chain. It's not like Domino's or Papa John's or some garbage like that. Like it's quality ingredients and stuff like that. They had this one pizza that's basically like some type of garlic Alfredo like sauce base kind of deal, but then it has like, you know, sauteed onions and like all kinds of cool stuff on it. And it's really fucking good. But sometimes I just like a classic, you know, pepperoni and onions or something like that. What about yourself, Vince?
I like chicken barbecue, man. I think you can't really do it badly, you know? It's like a safe bet. Wherever you go, they're going to do chicken barbecue, and they're probably going to do it pretty well. So, chicken barbecue for me, for sure.
It's not a bad change of pace pizza. I just feel like if I'm getting a pizza, I want that tomato base or maybe like a garlic or Alfredo kind of base. If I'm going to do barbecue, I'd rather just go eat barbecue, you know? But I don't hate on your decision. I think it's, you know, it's respectable.
Do we play instruments? I play bass. I think you used to play drums, right? You
Correct.
still play drums?
I haven't played in many years.
Oh, okay.
It's very expensive to own a drum set. And also, it takes up a lot of room. So, not something I've dabbled in a while.
Yeah, the problem is with a drum set, because I also used to play drums, that they're very space consuming, and then they're also very loud unless you get electric ones, which are super expensive for like a good set. You end up getting like some garbage $300 set that breaks after like 3 days. But it is pretty difficult to do.
Oh, I want to throw in a couple other names really quick for Cloud9 I think would be good decisions.
Go on.
How about a nice Slowy from Havu?
Interesting. Okay.
Or if they can get like somehow get Sergey out of Ents. Obviously, that'd be pretty sick too.
That would be banging, but I feel like Ents are going to try their best to hold on to him.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Just figured I'd throw another couple of choices out there that I thought looked... You know what else would be banging? Never will happen, of course. JKS.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Alex knows, and he's just sitting in chat, you know, just thinking to himself, either good or bad things about my opinions. You know what I will say, Vince? It's just nice to see Alex back, man. It is, because I almost feel like there's unfinished business in his CSGO career.
I agree. It is great to see him back. Not just because obviously like the UK element and everything, but I'm not just saying it. It's going to sound like we're just saying it because he's in chat, but I've said this many times when he hasn't been. I think he's an incredibly gifted IGL, and I want to see how far he can go. I hope they get a really good team behind him.
This will be the ultimate test too, right? Because I think a lot of people, fairly or not, will judge his in-game leading on Vitality with the caveat that he had someone like Zywoo on his team. And so this will be the test. What do you do without a talent like that? Because while there will be some talent on Cloud9, there's also going to be some gambles on younger talent. And it will be up to him, with the Kassad's help and Henry's help, of course, to develop that talent and make something of it. So I think that this will be a real test for him, a real challenge, you know. Obviously, even though he is from the UK, he's a French speaker, and he was on pretty much an all-French team. Now he's going international. That brings its own challenges on, you know, classes of, you know, language and culture and personality and, you know, mentality on how the game should be played. So I think it'll be an interesting challenge for Alex that'll really test his in-game leading chops in a whole new way, which will either make him a legend in some people's eyes on how he handles it, or it could hurt his stock. But it's obviously a challenge I'm sure Alex is looking forward to. Right on the crossing position. Not sure if you're back in yet, Vince.
Just got back in, thank you.
Okay, cool.
Sorry about that, guys. Just CS things. First crash in 8 hours. We'll take those odds. And now, as Dust has beautifully painted the picture for us, we have Endpoint on the aggression. Through on long side. Two players passing each other. Rops is still in the smoke, waiting for the flashes to detonate around him, and goes down. While Flamesy is flashed, he sprays the smoke and connects the headshot. And not much for Frozen to do, but to try and hold on to this Kevlar and see if he can maybe trade up to an AK, but Endpoint off to a 6-3 lead. They did the same on Mirage, and they converted.
Yeah, not a whole lot that could be done here. And mousesports' position of, you know, just having the one-op on Rops. So 6 rounds will go the way of Endpoint. They do so cleanly as well, which is always nice. I mean, you're always supposed to win rounds like this, but every now and then you get challenged a bit. You lose a couple of players, you get a little bit sloppy. But Endpoint will not fall prey to that this round. They'll be able to carry over everything. That's certainly going to help them out in a big way. As mousesports are in this weird buy-save rotation right now because of their economy, so unless they can string together a couple of rounds in a row, pretty much here and now, it seems like Endpoint are going to have a huge half.
Certainly appears that way, and the pressure mounting now on mousesports as they do buy up to an AWP for Carrigan, who is not really in an ideal position to peek either fast. He will be heading towards the long side, or potentially the car where he's typically been playing so far. Smoke onto the Xbox from Surreal. We'll be pushing past that. Flashes out onto long. Not an ideal flashbang, but it's no problem. Because there's a smoke down anyway, and mousesports weren't up close. They're not playing pit, they're not playing up close at all. Instead, Chris J hiding behind the smoke now has Carrigan to join him. Double flashes in effect. Carrigan gets the first, but Robin still on the blue container. Needs to be dealt with. The bomb is actually dropped the wrong side of long. It means those two players will have to cross back again. But Carrigan getting too aggressive, gets punished.
Yeah, maybe just not expecting that angle on top the blue bin there. BMOS trying to get aggressive on Catwalk to spawn, which understandable. You have to kind of take a gamble once you lose your other defender. You have to try to take control of something. He chooses to push into Catwalk. Unfortunately, he's found out. While Robin does have low HP, Endpoint do have a massive advantage here. They will smoke the cross, and Robin actually survives all the bullets coming through. Rob's trying to get into flanking position at long A. If he gets this kill, this could open things up, and indeed he does. Now it gets a little bit interesting. Slow advantage for Endpoint, but now they have more to worry about.
The worries are mounting. You've painted the prospects of how this would look if mousesports concede. Their economy in tatters. The lead vast. Robin not missing the AWP shot. Now down to Frozen. With an M4. Doesn't have many options available to him. He may just have to save it. And in doing so, Endpoint victorious again. Robin needs to be careful. He's on low HP. He darts back towards middle. They will be able to save them. No problems with the M4 AK and AWP, but this isn't good enough for mousesports now. They need to start getting wins.
Yeah, it's starting to hit that critical mass where you can't go for saves anymore, or you can't bite the bullet and not go for a retake opportunity and just sit back and save weapons. Like, the round count's getting too out of control, and your economy is getting withered away. And Chris J has yet to find a frag this game, Vince. That is shocking to me on a map like Dust 2, where his opping abilities, or just using a sniper in general, even if he's not the primary, certainly a secondary role, but the economy hasn't been there to do that. That is really tough. And I just feel like Endpoint are constantly winning these long A battles. I mean, I think that's been kind of the big impact that has been there, time and time again. Rob's had a good flank opportunity in the previous round to try to unlock a retake chance, but he got caught as he was trying to make his way up through the game helper position. So it's essentially back to a freebie for Endpoint, you have to imagine, in a situation like this. Just Deagles and an M4 for mousesports.
Slim pickings. If you're on mousesports right about now, hoping for the best. They have Carrigan perched up close on the long doors, but only a USP, so I mean, chances of getting more than one kill pretty low. Not even one will be forthcoming from his perspective. BMAS watching middle. They were stacking the bulk of their team over on the B side, assuming that Chris J could quickly wrap around from middle if they need him, who is now going up mid, trying to take the initiative, try to roll the dice. Nothing forthcoming for him. Frozen at least does avenge the kill onto Surreal, but you have to feel here, Dust, that the damage has been done and the round should be falling into place, barring a miraculous play from the Lithuanian.
Yeah. Does seem like that is going to be the case. The bomb does get punched in. A jumping eagle attempt there from BMOS. You can't fault them for trying. That is basically the type of desperation you have to do in a round like this. They'll at least be able to steal an AK out of this. Rops was able to find one there off the catwalk. Frozen maintains the control of the M4. This will save them a bit of money in the next round. It'll allow those two players to focus more on getting utility, or maybe even dropping a weapon if need be to someone. Honestly, at this point, if I'm mousesports, if I can afford it, I'm putting an op in Chris J's hand, and I'm letting them just try to make a play. It just seems like right now they're getting pummeled on the long A control. They're not really able to dictate the pace really anywhere on the map, and I just feel like that might be the Hail Mary type play you have to make. Like, the score itself might not indicate that it's that dire of a situation, although it is fairly in favor of Endpoint. But I think the bigger problem is the economy situation that they're in. You know, you aren't going to get too many more full buys. So I think, yeah, double op is great, but Rops has the second op. This is surprising. Not that Rops has the second op, because he's like, you know, playing B site, you know, anchoring that with an op makes sense, but I really think Chris Jade's the guy that you need to go make a play right now. Maybe that helped him get alive, too. He's got no kills while he's been rifling.
Yeah, I do wonder if Carrigan's like, do you want the second AWP? And he says no. You know, he's just not feeling it.
Yeah, we don't know. That could certainly be a thing.
Because Chris J is definitely a team player. I think he puts the needs of the team above himself. It's the kind of player that he is. If he's just not on right now, makes sense that you just give it to somebody else. But that is a very good point that you raise. They need Chris J to come alive. They really desperately need him because he is a linchpin player. He's been huge throughout today's proceedings for mousesports. And, you know, we're talking about the mental fatigue coming out of that first best of 3 that mousesports played. Sure. Maybe this is where it catches up with the likes of Chris J. Maybe he's just tired. You know, he's just human at the end of the day.
No, I think that's definitely a good point to make, how they've just come off a very long best of 3, whereas Endpoint, I don't think had to play before this today. Maybe unless they played in something else other than this qualifier. Either way, we are seeing Endpoint now setting up for a mid-B split. They already have position at middle with Surreal. CT Spawn probably smoked off momentarily. 2 players on Qual for mousesports have a chance to quick rotate, but they're still just kind of hauled up on the stairs. There are 2 players defending inside the site, Frozen and the op of Rops. Ooh. Wow.
Oh, beautiful work from Surreal. Exquisite shots with the AK. Spinning around, Carrigan and BMAS can't really get anything done, and that does put Chris J onto 0 and 10. His woes continue alongside mousesports. Endpoint already off to a 9-3 lead on the T side, and keep in mind that mousesports, they won the knife. They elected to go CT. And everything is backfired so far. You know, it has that same helpless kind of feel that I had in Train, but reversed. When we were just looking at Endpoint, we were like, there aren't really any positives that we can glean from this. Now I have the same feeling about mousesports.
Yeah, I mean, it started off really scrappy, right? I think it was 1-for-1 the first 4 rounds. That's why we got to the 2-2 score. And then from that point forward, it seems like Endpoint started teeing off, and it doesn't really look back. They're getting great contributions out their entire lineup. Still, Chris J has yet to find any impact on the scoreboard. I feel like BMAS has gotten caught out a couple of times as well in his rotations from CT spawn up the A slope. Again, they've lost a long A battle more often than not. When Endpoint's wanted control of it, seems like they've been able to take it, other than like a couple of TK situations that took place. But aside from that, it really has just been the Endpoint show here on T-side Dust 2. And it's getting to a dangerous point in the score. Like, it's understandable that a T-side would win the half on Dust 2, but you need to at least put up some numbers on CT to give yourself a chance. And it's hitting that point where if mousesports don't at least get to like 5 or so rounds, their chances would be very slim, especially if they lose pistol in the second half.
Yeah, it's just how the ebbs and flows of how this half have come to fruition that will make for very poor reading and a poor feeling that mousesports will have right now, especially when they come back to watch this later, as I'm sure Carrigan will. One that they may want to forget. You asked if Chris J would get his hands on the AWP. He has, but he misses his chance and drops down. It's a shot that you expect him to potentially connect with, to be honest.
Oh, yeah.
And another map, I think he would. He's just clearly not feeling 100% right now.
But now he is positioned at game helper for the A cross, and he does have Kerrigan taking care of long A for him, so he can focus his full attention on catching a cross off catwalk if they indeed try to lay on this A bomb site. And that is where the real test will come. Yeah, you missed your chance at an aggressive peek early, but it's no harm, no foul. You got away. This is where you do have to stand tall, though, if you're Chris J. You've got to find a way to pick off 1 or 2 players on this execute.
Well, let's hop on board with Chris J. It'd be great to see him start to come alive. So many flashbangs that he can't really feasibly keep position. It's not tenable. It's not a viable situation, so he darts back and falls back towards the long side of the map. Bomb planted for short, alleviating some of the pressure for Endpoint. They don't have to face Chris J, and he's missed another one. He takes a chunk of damage in the process from Crucial. The Dutchman looking good right now, and Carrigan alongside Rops showing up where it counts. M4 spray through the box, but now Surreal pinces round, pivots into the headshot. He's already landed so many crisp headshots today. but no more will be coming up, and Flames gets dispatched post-haste. mousesports, successful retake. But again, Chris J missing some shots, 0 and 11.
At least he stayed alive, right? I mean, he knew that he couldn't hold the corner. He fell back to the A platform. He at least, I don't want to call him like a decoy in a sense, but he was taking shots at the plat, which allowed some of his riflers to slide into better positions to go for the retake. And they actually did, you know, overwhelmingly get the frags they needed outside of Chris Shea missing some op shots. So it still worked out in the end for mousesports, even if, you know, Chris Shea was unable to convert. And he's actually now passed the op back off to Kerrigan.
Oh, those flashbangs. Beautifully done. BMAS drops the blinded Surreal, surpassing him for what could be a 5th round. mousesports may be able to remedy the situation. Rops stuck in middle. It's a one and done position. Gets charged down, hoping that maybe only one assailant comes up against him. And now look at all the pressure that's being imposed upon Frozen. Flashbang is good. The follow-up damage is on point as well. Bomb spills out. They need to be wary of BMAS, who's hiding behind the smoke, but he starts to burn alive. And enough time has been stalled and stagnated across that maybe Frozen can hold the line long enough for Chris J to get in close proximity. The M4 alongside him, Chris J, there's his first. Good to see. And now Mighty Max with the AWP will be coming into the round and showing his presence. Smoke lands alongside him. Grenade comes in. Max misses and is punished by Chris. That will be a 5th to mousesports. Solid hold by Frozen.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, the weird part about Endpoint is all of their B attacks have been very mid-focused. They've either had only one player come through tunnels on the pinch or 0. And so that means that mousesports have often been able to really just focus on battling at door and window and never really have to worry about getting burned from tunnels. But they've still often lost those fights when Endpoint have gone for that particular play. And I feel like that's why they've lost a lot of the rounds, aside from the fact that they've struggled on long A control. But that time, Frozen actually was able to step up to the plate and delivered on stopping that mid portion of the attack. And that was a big factor in how mousesports were able to ultimately win the round. And Chris J finally getting the board, a couple of big kills on his maneuver through B tunnels. Oh, that's a rough one if you're Frozen. You're Malden.
Yeah, just out of nowhere. It's a speculative shot, and look at how much pressure it puts on Rops now. It's not just Frozen that's molding, it's the rest of the teammates, but Rops holds the line for 2. And BMAS also chipping in with 1. Now the aggression from Endpoint spilling out onto the site. Robin culling Rops. That is a huge piece of the puzzle that goes with him. BMAS goes out too aggressively, and Robin carves his head out. This is a 2v4. This is a round that mousesports should be taking. And what an integral moment this could be in the best of 3. Flashes subsiding, crucial, nullifying the first player, leaving it all down to Kerrigan. Nisa lead by example, show the troops how it's done, but down he goes, crucial, smashes him, no-scopes him out of the half. And Endpoint will lead 10-5. That is a round mousesports cannot afford to lose.
No, not at all. I actually am very critical of how they handled that. I mean, they had the double kill from Rops with the AWP, which already should have been a great response to, you know, losing Frozen, unfortunately, just through like a random smoke door spam of an op shot from T-spawn. That is going to happen sometimes. It is just the nature of Dust 2, so no fault there. Rops recovers nicely with a couple of kills of his own. But on that 2v2 retake, again, the doors are now repositioned. There was no reason to commit to running into the site without clearing the tunnel's entrance and car first by just peeking through the doorway. You don't have to just run in and commit your body like that. You can, you know, use a Molotov. I think they even had a Molotov for incendiary of some sort, if I'm not mistaken. Even if they didn't, you know, maybe just try to get an angle on a car, see if you can catch that kill first, and then you go in together. But instead, one player just kind of ran in by himself, died, and then Kerrigan's stuck in a tough 1 versus 2. I just think that they could have maybe slowed it down a little bit, just been a little bit more patient, play a little bit more together. And I think they could have maybe pulled that retake off and gotten a 6th round, but instead I felt like they kind of jumped the gun a bit. They were too separated, and they got punished.
Such a vital moment in the game as well. To be down 10-5, knowing if you lose this pistol, you're in real dire straits.
Wow. Also, I want to give a shout out to Dualism, who's got the sickest burn I've read in a while, which was that looked like dust stopping. Thanks.
Oof, Rops, hello. Surreal caved in. Did they expect a second player here? No. No one is looking towards the pit. Surreal, so pardon me, Crucial can take his sweet time. He wanted to go for the knife, then decides, hold on a second, there's multiple players here. Let's play this one smart. He's gonna line them up. There's one, and a second, and a third from Crucial. The Dutchman dismantles mousesports after they get the first peek onto Surreal. No one checks the pit. And from the depths of the pit, Crucial will gobble them all and devour them whole. That is brutal to watch. Frozen, no control over the bomb, maybe shut down in the back if he's not careful from a weakened Flamesy. He decides better of that decision and starts to peer away back towards the A site. There's 3 players in pit and they all have long-range weapons. I'm not saying this is impossible, Dust, but it's damn close.
Yeah. I give Frozen's percent chance at winning this maybe like somewhere between 2 and 5%.
Yeah, that's on a good day. This is brutal. He's been spotted, so now all those players can start to move together. Crucial with that 4K. Like, the 3 kills he gets on long are so well played. You can see him pull out the knife because he wants the AWP fund. That's his primary thought, is like, I want the money for the AWP. And then sees the second player's like, hold on a second, I can win this round.
Yeah, that was rough that they just didn't check pit. This goes to show you that if you leave one stone unturned, they could come back to haunt you. Really surprised they didn't at least have one player take a look in pit. Always have to be wary of that. But again, I think maybe tensions are high, mental fatigue is setting in. They obviously lost a 2v2 in a really weird way the last round of the first half. They had a rough half overall. And so I think that just adds, you know, fuel to the fire. That is probably the frustrations that mousesports are feeling right now.
Yeah, these last 2 rounds are going to be rounds they want to forget real quick. Out come the T, spilling through middle. Grenade tossed in, FAMAS behind it, not doing any damage. And Frozen straight out. mousesports. They're not taking any prisoners. No mercy being shown, and already Endpoint pull the plug. They back out. They know they have a nice round buffer. Don't lose these weapons. Great retort from mousesports. Great chance to get back into the matchup.
Yeah, that was really well done. Just great individual plays there with the Tech 9s. Again, those guns are so dangerous. They've been buffed kind of a while back, and no one was really catching on to it for a while. But I feel now they are a very viable option if you want to go for a low buy round 2. If you can close the distance, it's way more accurate than it used to be. It's kind of closer to its original levels when it was like ridiculously overpowered just after like the CZ meta that we had a few years back with like you know, LDL, CZ and stuff like that. That's probably back in the 2014 timeframe. The Tech 9 came into popularity just after that CZ nerf took place, and then it got nerfed after, you know, several months, and now it's made its return, I feel like, in many ways.
Suppose if there are mental fatigue, and that's pure speculation, of course, but if there is, one way of dealing with that is to just go balls to the wall aggression.
Yeah.
Less thinking, more doing. Only one
they're
player.
not wasting time on this one either.
Yeah, just one player on B as well, Dust. This is going to be brutal for Surreal. If he can get any kills, it will be surprising, let alone more than one. But Mighty Max is up there close. Quickly, Surreal gets one, traded out instantly. And another rapid round for mousesports, paying out. But we have seen them lose from these positions before. They need to be careful. They need to respect Endpoint. But that respect is being shown the other way. Endpoint, again, dip out and almost a carbon copy of the previous round. Try and save on long.
Yeah, back-to-back heavy B hits here from mousesports. Convincing victories. Just pouring out the utility and just storming the front, and they have netted big results. Frozen a big part of both of them. We'll even be able to upgrade to an M4 there on Chris J. So they're starting to show us a little bit of life now all of a sudden. You know, I think for a while there, we were just kind of feeling like we were coasting to a easy victory for Endpoint, just the way that the first half was playing out. But now mousesports have started to muster up something. Starting to see Chris J get on the scoreboard a bit more. Again, he was like 0-10 at one point, so at least now he's gotten a few kills under his belt. Maybe that kind of fuels him to get back in the server and start contributing.
Let's have the MP9 for this round, but it is against a fairly armorless team, apart from Flamesy and Robin. They're pushing on to B again. Yeah, I mean, you called it. The fast rush, it's worked a couple of times. If it ain't broke, but don't fix it. Rob's, though, getting shredded down. Look at all the HP bars. There's no way for Robin to know this is the case. But what he doesn't realize is everyone is low. The downside is, so is he. He's on 22 HP. Everybody below 35 HP in this game right now. And that will signify there's a very high likelihood that mousesports pick up an 8th.
All right, Vince. So we've seen back-to-back-to-back 5-man B rushes through tunnels from mousesports. Do you want to take some action on whether they rush B next round or not?
I'm going to say no. I think it's too telegraphed at this point.
So you're gonna say they're not gonna rush B again?
I don't think they will. Do you?
You know what? No. But just to make it interesting, I'm gonna take the action. What's our terms?
But we both don't think they're gonna go B. So
but I'm gonna know that they're going B anyway.
You'll get 10k salt. There you go.
Nice. I'll take it.
What happens
what
if you're wrong?
Get? I don't know. I'll give you some type of weird compliment on the stream.
Yeah, but you know I hate compliments. So that's just me wrecked either way, isn't it?
They have the B spawn, Vince. Oh no, they tossed the bomb back. It's not happening, is it? No. Well, no salt for me. Just like yesterday, there was no salt to be had for me either. Except for my own tears when I took the L.
You were close. You wrecked the rifle round, so you can live with that one. Forget the next two.
Yeah. Just got no reg on the USP round.
Not salty, of course.
Neither did Dualism, to be fair. Like, no, we were both struggling there. It was a coin toss in the pistol round. We were both literally just standing still, tapping at each other, hoping for the best. Dualism did come out on top. So we are now back to a full even buy round for both teams, and a challenge taking place on the catwalk stairwell that Endpoint has so far come out on top of. Are gonna have the 4-on-3.
It's a 4-on-3, but it's almost like a 4-on-2.5 because Carrigan on 4 HP does have the AWP, but there's no room for error. He overextends. One bullet finishes him. A lot of pressure being applied to both teams, to be fair, because Endpoint have really been up against it in these last few rounds. They desperately need a win. That one tap from Frozen, spicy. There's a molly toss at the backside, but Flamesy still stands up. Carrigan goes down next, and it's all falling upon Rops. He's already been dinked. Flamesy's done incredible damage. But you see the discipline as well. A lot of youngsters would re-peek. They'd get a little bit too antsy. He's looking for information, and he finds it, but he doesn't wide swing. He waits for the cavalry to arrive. Love to see that from Flamesy. Was he trying to knock the molly back to himself so he could throw it on catwalk, maybe?
Possibly. I don't think he wanted to peek and grab it to throw it, but now he feels confident doing so, and trace it to the AK as well. No hope now for Rops, of course. Well done by Flamesy, man. He was under a lot of pressure getting split from Cat and Long and was able to get some big kills. So, well played. I think mousesports were on to something there. I mean, they had Frozen getting the entry with the one tap on the Cat. They had the smoke on CT spawn. Flamesy was essentially isolated. Always a nightmare situation if you're really having no hope at getting support from your teammates and you're having to guard multiple angles at once. But Flamesy was able to, in all of that, you know, maintain composure and pick the right battles and won 2 key duels and won the round for his team, essentially. So, well done by Flamesy, a guy that I didn't really know anything about coming into this series. I hadn't really watched him play prior to him coming on to Endpoint. And he's proven so far to be a pretty valuable pickup.
Out to be one of the next big things. And Rops, at one point, was certainly said of the same. I think he's already achieved that, to be honest. Proving himself as a phenomenal player. Has been great today and great in recent times for mousesports. And a bit of damage to Surreal, but nothing that is going to stick and put him down. May draw over that secondary player, though. They may feel like B is a bit more vulnerable, so it puts Mighty Max over on the B site and opens up middle for some business. And that's where mousesports will be looking to pounce. They have the extra player of Rops that's waiting outside as the smoke comes down. They need to be wary of that second player that's Robin, who's waiting behind the smokes. This crossfire is so good, and the flashes to support it are on point. Flamesy now pushing out there. Look at the bomb drop. They've taken control of B, but it's for naught. They lack the key component. Surreal needs to move. That flashbang nearly yielding results. But instead, Rop survives on 1 HP. 38 seconds to play with. Smoke tossed out towards the doors. Now, does Rops just go hell for leather? Aggression outside the doors. You better believe he does. And he walks past the one player that he needed to hold on to. No way of him knowing in amongst the smokes and flashbangs, but that hold in middle was excellent from Endpoint.
Yeah, I just feel like the split from mousesports, though, also a bit disjointed. Like, in an ideal world, you're timing your split to where you're putting pressure on the B site from tunnels simultaneously as your players come up middle. That forces the B defense to kind of scramble a bit more and have to, you know, be careful on where they're taking their peaks. But it just seemed like they were able to focus on the mid portion of the attack without really having to worry too much about the tunnels portion. And at the end of the day, you know, Endpoint really just shut that attack down, particularly just getting the onslaught at middle and getting the bomb down so early. The B tunnels players could never really have any impact from mousesports. So an issue of timing and just not being able to trade efficiently on the mousesports side. Rops with a chance at entry here on the Surreal, who has an op on the B platform, misses his opportunity.
Nade is good. There was a chance with Mighty Max with a smoke out. Could have been overwhelmed and swarmed, but instead, he's able to put it down into the tunnels. Rip onto his weapon once more and spray down the oncoming T's. Last player stuck in the smoke is frozen. Comes out swinging, but it's with a Glock. No upgraded weapon can be found for the time being. If he had a Deagle, he could have maybe gave him a way forward, but instead, Endpoint 2 rounds shy of qualifying for DreamHack Open Fall. They would still need to play another best of 3 for seeding, but they would qualify for the tournament. Meanwhile, mousesports, they won't be eliminated today. They'll have to play another best of 3. And if they lose that, they are done.
Absolutely, which would just add to a string of already really disappointing online results that led to a roster change, and they might still be on that same train unless they can find a way to hop off here and get something going on Dust 2 or something going tomorrow in the final best of 3. Either way, Endpoint are on the verge of qualifying for DreamHack Open Fall, just a couple of rounds from guaranteeing a spot and then just fighting for seeding tomorrow. So you are going to see this is essentially the last full buy that mousesports are going to have. They've bought everything that they possibly can to try to stop Endpoint from reaching map point. They are going to get long A control very early. They are pushing back Surreal in a big way with this op over on A ramp, but he's able to get away and finds a frag. Oh no, that's not what mousesports needed.
The murmurs of GG in the background beginning to echo off the walls of Dust 2. Endpoint will be struggling to lose from this point if they do convert to a 15-8 lead. Flamesy tossing in the grenade, that's money. B-Mass dropped to 2 HP, lucky to survive. But considering there's still 5 healthy Endpoint players on the server, even a post-plant doesn't bode well for mousesports. They have no more grenades. They can't cordon off any of these areas. They need raw fragging, and that's something they've been severely lacking to date. Carrigan, though, comes out swinging with the AWP. They still have Crucial perched up, looking at the cross. Still players stuck on the site, one of which is the aforementioned low B-Mass, and now Frozen's been tagged down to 15 HP. One bullet seals the deal on both these players. Still come out swinging though with some kills, and now Carrigan standing. It all falls upon Robin. It's Robin versus Frozen, and Frozen's gonna take it. He saves mousesports by the skin of their teeth. They hold on.
Yeah, I think the key duel was Surreal. He was basically stuck at the quad box with an op, and he was trying to go for spam shots on the sight box. And when he did, the op of mousesports was able to ring true onto him, and that kind of tilted the odds a little bit. Despite mousesports having low HP on the site and having no real utility, they killed a really key component of Endpoint's retake right off the bat. And then I felt like Endpoint, I don't know if they necessarily just lacked patience, but they just, once they lost Surreal, it felt like they started kind of unraveling very quickly from that point forward. And it just got really chaotic and obviously trading back and forth. And yeah, at the end of the day, mousesports do hold on, at least for now. Now, Vince has had to step away for just a moment, so I'll take over for just a bit as we wait for him to return. And what could be the final rounds here of Dust 2, but at least mousesports now have a bit of a lifeline. The problem is if they lose, they would really have nothing to work with to stop Endpoint from getting map and series point. Same could be said, though, for Endpoint. If mousesports can find a 10th round here, they probably get an 11th for free, as Endpoint had to take the save. So a lot is going to be put on this round, as we do see mousesports Just getting control of middle. Chris J leading the charge with the AK-47. Utility coming in, does chip away at him just a smidgen, but not enough for him to truly worry, as he'll continue to hold his ground here on the stairs. And he does have a couple of players towards long doorway as well. He's got a supporting pass behind him here against AWP. Limited utility, though, on the mouse sports side. Mostly just relying on taking duels and brute forcing their way through this A side. Chris J will put the one smoke that they do have on this cross, but we can see Endpoint trying to counter. They're going for a boost as well, but Kerrigan reads it perfectly, finds a quick headshot to follow up. And this attack on the A bomb site is absolutely dominating Endpoint right now. They have no hopes, really, at fighting back. They even have a player stuck in CT spawn that Frozen has got his crosshair trained on with the AK. He doesn't actually find the frag, though. It was close. It's ramming down to 20 HP, as Endpoint will just save these weapons in the B bomb site. So a very decisive round victory from mousesports, despite that they had very little utility. Just big entry fragging with Kerrigan with the AWP, man. He hit some nice shots there, and now Vince has returned.
Hello, sorry,
Just
nature called.
You know, I wasn't going to say what you were doing while you were gone, but if you want to volunteer that information, that's totally up to you.
Hey, mate, I've been casting for 8.5 hours. Something had to give eventually. But,
you broke the seal.
Exactly that. I've been chugging the water, you know, keeping my voice fresh as possible. Mousesports. Did I miss anything? I mean, obviously they've won the round, but was there anything out of the ordinary, or was it just straight up entries?
It's Kerrigan banging him with the op.
Love to see it.
He had a nasty follow-up headshot after his first entry. Definitely worth taking a look at on your delayed stream or what have you, if you want. He hit a banger.
Yeah, there's definitely doubters regarding him warping, but been some really nice work from him over the last couple of days. Endpoint struggling to really put together any kind of buy. That 4-player stack outside of B. It won't be the straight-up rushes of what we saw the opening few rounds entail from mousesports on their T side, but it will be a delayed push. They're lining up smokes, locking off the key choke points. Trying to lock off the comeback as well at Endpoint. And now Robs, molly in, looking to try and plant, waiting patiently for the molly to clear. Now he puts it down, and Endpoint not really interested. They have 2 players up close, one of which is Surreal, and the other one is going to be Flame. I'm surprised they're even in this position, you know, Dust, because surely you want to save these 2 players. A nice one-tap onto Mighty Max, but now they decide, okay, look, the boost didn't work. Let's save the M4. Let's get that decent buy-in. We still got a decent enough round buff. Don't throw this away.
Yeah, I just like the thought process from, you know, mousesports in these rounds. I mean, when it's an anti-eco and you know CTs don't have the utility, you can more comfortably look to just take your way out through B tunnels or along A, knowing that you're not going to get stuffed by smokes or incendiaries, and you're going to be able to get out into the open and start making your firepower known, so to speak, knowing that you're going to have the superior weaponry. And they've had success already on anti-ecos earlier in the half doing these B rushes, and they did 3 in a row, I think, at the beginning of the half. So they are just feeling confident with that, and it's going to get them an 11th round. Money is back for Endpoint, though. They will lack an op, however. That is worth pointing out. There's certainly one in play for Kerrigan. He's had a couple of big rounds with it so far here on the T side. See if he can keep it up and keep mousesports' dreams of not having to worry about a best of 3 tomorrow. Don't want to have to be waking up at 10 a.m. for any Counter-Strike matches tomorrow.
Too soon, Dust. That is the most outrageous thing I think I've read in recent memory, like, but whatever. I'll get tilted and I'll go off on a rant. Flamesy. Ooh, that spray's good. It's good enough for a kill. I thought it might be B-Master drops, but it's actually Chris J just behind him that got wrecked.
That is so tough if you're mousesports, too, because you just feel like you just rolled the dice wrong in a situation like that. You haven't really made an error, but you've just gotten caught, and it gives Endpoint such an advantage in such a big round.
Drops nearly evening the odds. Now only missing out. Mighty Max takes the opportunity to push in. Rob's eviscerated. Mousesports gasping for air, desperately trying to beat the submerging. The Endpoint is putting on them. The weight of this map, this best of 3 is weighing them down. Like a weight around their ankle. Now Flamesy waiting, post-plant, no problem, because now the grenades fire in, now the bullets come into fruition, but Kerrigan and B-Mass still alive. They're trying to pull off this 2v5. And this is doable when you look at their positions, but the downside is B-Mass has been dealt with and Kerrigan can't kill all of them. It's an AWP, it's not an AK. An Endpoint, 4 match points, 4 qualifying points.
Yeah, just Mock Harrigan and BMOS had some action there. No one else from mousesports really able to find the mark. And Flamesy, again, had a great opening kill through the smoke. Again, you could call somewhat of it being luck, but it's also about knowing where to place your crosshair and where to span to give yourself a chance to find a frag. And indeed, he found it and even found a follow-up a little bit later on. Really tough on mousesports when you're playing from behind and you lose a player so early in the round before you really even feel like you got going. Luckily, they still have an economy to work with here, so it's not as if they're, you know, forced buying to survive. They are going to be able to have the AWP, full utility, all the AKs they could want, but now they can afford no more mistakes. They must win out from this point to force overtime, which they are, of course, no strangers to as a team today, and we as casters are no strangers to it either. So we have to see if they're going to be able to do it or not. Otherwise, Endpoint will be taking one of the slots for DreamHack Open Fall. That is what's up for grabs on these last few rounds. Loser will have to play a last chance decider tomorrow, essentially.
That is absolutely on the money, Dust. And you better believe they don't want that pressure. They do win this. It's to do with seeding, which will still be important, of course, but you've already booked your spot in the actual event. This takes a lot of the pressure out of the situation for the victor, and it's looking more and more likely with every second that passes that Endpoint will have their collective hands raised as the victors taking that all-important W. Surreal not far off, winging Rops. A bit of damage, but nothing too severe, nothing too significant. Does put him in headshot range now, though. Needs to be wary. Smokes out onto Catwalk.
Yeah, mousesports being slowed down just a bit, but they at least have that Catwalk control they can use to split A or fall into a mid-B split, and they can pull this rotation on Robin and commit to the A slope. It could be a real problem, but it's an even trade on a CT slope drop down, but Endpoint, they're fighting back. They're keeping it even 3-on-3. Self-defense inside the B site.
Mighty Max has fallen. And with him, maybe the hopes of wrapping this map up right here, right now. Indeed, that will be coming into play. Crucial, must save. mousesports get to a 12th.
Wow.
And we're going in for another super close game. When you look at the economy here, Dust, it doesn't seem like it will support a great buy at all.
No, not at all. I think that, honestly, the deciding factor of that was Frozen catching Flamesy. Flamesy was making a flank through CT spawn. Frozen was in the window. He was trying to help his team, you know, control the site itself, but he was able to basically pull off a 180 and get the kill on the Flamesy. If that battle goes differently, we have a 2-on-2, and maybe there was still a chance for Endpoint to end it here and now, but not going to be the case. mousesports, just a great little mid-B split there. Great work from Frozen. A couple of big kills from him.
Curious on what the buy is going to look like, if they do indeed go for anything, or if it's just Deagles. And Deagles seems like the logical decision. P250 and Deagles picked up. Does allow Crucial bit of free reign to see what he can draw in. He can't finish this game outright. Doesn't have a great spawn for middle. May go for it anyway. It's a bit of a risk gamble play, and well, there's your answer. Carrigan having none of it. Mighty Max pressing forward into the B tunnels. Lands an instant dink. Unfortunate not to reap the rewards with the kill. But now Surreal will come straight up. Claims that frag. Down he goes for the final kill of the round. We kind of anticipated that would be the outcome, Dust, and now it's all about what happens next. Endpoint have a bye.
Yeah, this is getting real interesting all of a sudden here, right at the home stretch, right as we approach the finish line. mousesports have re-emerged, and they are looking to go toe-to-toe with Endpoint and try to force this overtime. It seemed impossible just moments ago, but now mousesports have put in the hard yards to actually get themselves a chance here, and now we have to consider that possibility more strongly. Well, we'll see if Endpoint can put a halt to it. Gonna see some challenges at middle and Catwalk here early. mousesports is looking to take what control they can. Rock's putting that pressure on the tunnels. Surreal dumping a smoke to block off that choke point. Rops continues just to kind of toy with them while they, again, just focus on this Catwalk control.
Oh, the molly's forced Flamesy out into the open. There was a good flashbang tossed in as well. His options were go forward or back. And he decided to go forward, maybe anticipating a counter flash tossed in from the CTs would allow him the luxury to open up his arms and start to slap aside the Ts, but instead he's just gift-wrapped an advantage to mousesports at such an important moment in this game.
Yeah. And Endpoint have nothing now, man. They don't have cat control. They didn't even have any long A presence. Finally, Robin's taking that back right now. That would have been very scary if they couldn't have reclaimed that. At least now they have some tabs on what mousesports is up to. mousesports still has plenty of time to transition to a mid-B split if they so choose, and indeed that's exactly what they're doing. But look at this, Endpoint's already on the rotate, but the B-bomb site has no one in it just yet. A good incendiary, though, has slowed mousesports down and gives time for the B defense to get in place.
Robin moving in alongside Mighty Max. That is a brutal grenade. Mighty Max takes out Molotov. In return, hefty damage to Surreal, but Robin is laid in wait. This could be it. This could be the last passage of play. Big entry from Robs. The spray is good, but so is the return fire, leaving it all down to Robin, and the Swede has been swept aside. We go the distance, and the economy from Endpoint does not look good to win this in regulation.
That was really scary on mousesports, though. Endpoint actually made the correct read. They got the proper rotation in time. They slowed mousesports down long enough to get good positions inside the B site. They had a good crossfire established even from car and site. And it looked like they might just pull it off, but it came down to a 1v1 in the end. mousesports found a way to weather through all the disadvantages to get themselves to this moment here and now where they have a chance to play for an overtime berth. Some spam through the doors with the auto snipers is not going to ring out any damage on Endpoint, but as you noted, Endpoint don't have a whole lot to work with. They're on this triple cat stack right now that they're hoping will net them some benefit, which they direly need at this point to keep their dreams at 2-1-ing the series here and now.
Oh, no. They come out swinging. They land the haymaker. mousesports are wobbling. Seeing stars, perhaps. That's a grim start, considering the lack of firepower and just the lack of overall investment, because they simply didn't have the funds to do anything else. To get 2 picks from Crucial, that is so detrimental for mousesports. They've got to somehow re-engage together, recover.
Yep. They're so spread thin. They are able to regather through T-spawn into the B tunnels. There is no one on B site just yet. mousesports do have some utility to flash their way in, but now Surreal's gotten here just in time to put down a counter incendiary that could further slow down mousesports' progress. They've already been shut down on the catwalk position, which is still being owned by Endpoint right now, a Flamesy. Surreal puts the smoke down first on B tunnels. The only thing is, the defense is spread kind of thin, so if mousesports go in together, they might be able to trade their way in.
Surreal's hiding in the smoke. Has been killed, but Mighty Max still with the scout in position to make this sting. In position to outright win this, perhaps, for Endpoint. The time is also low. In the Molotov, Mighty Max jumping back out again. He decides not to fully commit to the window. Now the bomb has been planted and the kill's coming through for mousesports. That indecision cost Endpoint dearly. We head to overtime.
I'm actually really surprised that Endpoint were that concerned about allowing the bomb plant. They just went in. Like, I think they could have let the bomb plant and then kind of coordinated their retake a little bit better. It seemed like they really just tried to plow on through as the bomb was being planted, maybe just thinking to themselves, well, we know one guy has to get to the plant. This is where we're going to have a guaranteed numbers advantage. And so they just tried to swarm in at that point to stop the plant and just backfire completely. Especially considering that they got the opening duels their way on Cat early. What was it, a 4-on-3?
Yeah, it was a 4-on-3 because Crucial went through on short, got 2 kills and got counted. They traded
1 for 1 on site because Surreal died. Mighty Max counter, so that was a 3-on-2 post plant.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like they could have taken their time. And just, I mean, the bomb plant didn't matter at that point. Just resets the clock.
Yeah, I wonder if they thought that because the bomb was getting planted in amongst that and the time was low, that if they pushed together, they would catch that second terrorist in like a really awkward position and could just smash him straight away.
That's fair.
Didn't happen though, they got wrecked.
The issue is though, the way that they were coming in, I think only 2 of them actually pushed in. Yeah,
it was awkward because Mighty Max tried to push through window and there's a Molotov. He started pushing and then he second-guessed himself and he was already burnt down to 10 HP. So it was like this really weird, awkward indecision that crept in. I don't know if it was like a bad comm or what happened, but yeah, not on the same page when it really mattered.
Yeah, I think you could pick that apart for a while and maybe come with different conclusions depending on what your own mentality is on how the game should be played. But either way, what we're left with is a tie game, 15-15. Again, winner of this map does get the slot for Open Fall in just a few weeks, which I know you'll be a part of that coverage team, Vince. So you're getting to see kind of the future teams that you'll be having to cover in that event.
Yes, sir. And both of these teams have a real shot. Even if they do lose this, they could still make it. So we could see both of these teams propel themselves towards that very tournament. But obviously, they want to get the outright win. mousesports, again, I go back to a point I made at the very beginning of this. This is a revenge match. They lost against Endpoint last time they met each other 2-0. They've already done better than that, of course. But they want this win. They want to take this down right here, right now. They've got a point to prove. Endpoint, in the meanwhile, they may have missed out their chance for... Remember, 4 match points. This was 15-11 at one stage. So I wonder if that's burrowing in the back of their minds as well.
So is this MR310K then?
Yep.
Okay. So economy does matter. If you get shut out 0-2, you could have a hard time buying the final round of the half, so it needs to be considered.
Yeah, normally we'll catch up with the CTs much quicker than the Ts, but that's dependent on how the first round goes. Endpoint tossing up their mollies. Mighty Max up close. There's no flash to force his way in, so he's going to be doing this dry. Now the flash is firing in, but it's from the Ts. Surreal stuck at the back of the site behind the smoke. Has to use it in some cover. There's one. Spins around. That's a beautiful couple frags. And Surreal may have just saved this round. Perhaps not, though, because Frozen elsewhere is causing havoc. He's got 2 already, and now Surreal pivots back into action. These 3 kills that Surreal has picked up are so vitally important for Endpoint, but Carrigan is still alive, still kicking, still healthy at 94 HP. But without any grenades, it may be difficult for him to pick this one off. However, he's up against Crucial, who's up close. Spots the first player, misses the shot, comes back in again, misses second time of asking, but Endpoint are also missing. It's a real scrappy affair.
Wow.
The kind of CS you expect to see at nearly 12 o'clock at night, but Endpoint do get the retake and do take first blood in overtime.
Yeah, it's definitely past midnight for some of these guys. That is for sure. It's been a long day. I know it's been a long day for you as well. You're going on 9 hours streaming, so you've had a marathon casting by yourself for most of it. I've just been able to come in for the easy hours at the end, especially that first map. That wasn't really much of a cast. But now we've at least been greeted with a couple of really nice games afterwards. We had Mirage, which is a pretty close contest, and now this one's gone into overtime. So this is getting nice and juicy for everyone out there. Appreciate all of you who have tuned in the whole way through these last few days. Catch more from Vince tomorrow as well. But let's finish this match off, shall we? Let's see who's going to get that spot, because we are seeing mousesports waste no time out in the middle, but Carrigan... He's bit off more than he could chew with that one. He's been absolutely rinsed by Surreal.
Surreal seems to be having a second wind. He's playing so well right now. 20 kills to his name. It feels like at least 8 of them have been in the last 4 or 5 rounds. Really feeling it. Flamesy darting around the edges, the periphery of the site. Does get pillaged alongside Mighty Max elsewhere on the other side of the map. That was a big shot from Surreal. I think he may have also tagged Chris J through that first player. Robin, spoiled for choice players all around him. Weakened players around him. Molly's being traded out. Frozen has seen him. Frozen wants this frag, needs this frag. 1v1. 60 seconds to go. And Frozen decides to pick up the bomb and head towards A. A little bit slow, though, missing that jump, and that could prove to be costly.
Yeah, it gave Surreal a little bit extra time to start slotting into position. He'll be able to spot if Frozen crosses long A or not, which will limit what he has to worry about as he makes his own approach to CT spawn. He's just slowly walking up. At this point, he knows that Frozen has to be Goose on the side itself or crossing the catwalk. He's got some utility to make use of. Tried to get inside of his own smoke as coverage so he wouldn't get shot in the back from Cat as he tried to approach A ramp, but Frozen was wise to that and didn't allow him the chance. That will tie the game right back up at 16 apiece. As each team will buy what they can. It will be limited for Endpoint. A couple of players are going to have to go onto a FAMAS, but we've seen them make magic happen in the past with mixed buys like this, so it stands to reason they could do so again.
Oh, I can never write Endpoint off. That's what we've learnt over the last few days of this tournament for sure. A team that, even when all hope looks lost, it can still come back. May I remind you of how many of us felt after that 16-1 train performance. And yet they came straight back in onto Mirage when it's 16-12. The surprise of many. So to be in this position right now, they absolutely could make this double for Mass work. Crucial. Landed some huge kills. Has a great spawn for middle as well, by the way. So he may try and utilize this. We've seen him peek it before. Carrigan typically has got the upper hand in these duels. Let's see if he goes for it. These big moments, these fulcrum point moments are where you need your big players to step up, and he decides against it. Doesn't want to run the risk. Goes in for a late peek, looking at that little gap in the doors. It's a cheeky angle. Doesn't yield any results this time, and one of the AWPers... Actually, Rob's going aggressive, but there is crucial. Robs has also fallen down on long. He pushed the blue container. It's not an angle you typically expect the AWPer to be, and then Flazy through the smoke. Smacking down Frozen. Brutal for mousesports. They have been comprehensively smashed this round.
Indeed, they have. Christian and Kerrigan have to pray for a miracle at this point, like parting the Red Sea. They must make their way into the A site. They do get a kill on to Flamesy at the corner, but Kerrigan's left all alone. He's low health, and Nate comes in, and he's not able to avoid it. He tumbles to his death as Endpoint finds 17, the one-round advantage as we move over to half number 2 of this first overtime. Will it be the overtime we need? It's a question that we still have to answer, as mousesports need to dig deep here to keep this thing going, keep their chances of just getting a spot here and now rather than having to play tomorrow. Endpoint obviously up to the same boat. They've already beaten mousesports once this tournament. They're looking to do it again. It does feel like they're more in control of things, though. It seems like the way that mousesports have won these rounds lately has been more based on crazy individual plays, whereas Endpoint have made good decisions on their rotations, and I feel like their overall team play has been a little bit better, short of messing up that retake at the end of regulation.
Right, and again, 15-11 in the leads. You wouldn't fault the team after playing for this long at this stage of the night. A crumble to a degree, but they've done the absolute opposite. They take the lead going through into their T-half. And keep in mind, if you wind back the clock what feels like quite a while ago now, in regulation at one point, Endpoint were dismantling mousesports on their T-side. Mousesports, I think, at one stage were like, what, 9-3 behind? Something like that. So we know in the past, Endpoint have had a very solid T-half. This could be going their way. They're just too shy. 19's the magic number. 18 will secure them a second overtime. The pressure on for mousesports.
Yeah, again, this isn't do or die per se, but it certainly gives you a much easier time to go ahead and secure your spot here and now rather than have to worry about playing a one last chance best of 3 tomorrow. More stress, more stamina you have to burn, I guess you could say, during this online era. As we do have a double op in play for mousesports, which is a very expensive investment, especially in MR310K. If it doesn't work, you really could put yourself on the back foot for the rest of the half. But it is a setup that they have relied on a lot throughout this series, and it has been successful on multiple occasions. So maybe just thinking more about putting their best foot forward immediately rather than worrying about the long-term economic repercussions.
Very A-centric. Oh, mousesports. And judging from the positions of Endpoint, this could work out to their success. It does seem now that Endpoint may be opting for a mid to B split, or perhaps not. They're faking the idea. Mousesports not falling for it. Frozen, Carrigan, and Chris J all able to fend this off. And additionally, have BMAS who's down in CT spawns. This is a very quick wrap. And on top of that, of course, having this many players in close proximity allows you to consistently fire in smokes and incendiaries onto the catwalk, which is going to make it that little bit more difficult. Here comes the smoke, and then we will be pushing behind this more than likely from Endpoint's perspective. Molly tossed out now. Flash in from Carrigan, and the green light has been pushed. All systems go. Endpoint need to get frags right now. Frozen is actually working around the back of the smoke and does a great job. He takes down 2 players. In amongst all of that chaos, only Robin remains. But not for much longer. The remnants of Endpoint scattered across the ground, and mousesports tie us back up.
Now, Endpoint has run that A execute multiple times in regulation with that exact same utility set, but this is the first time we've seen mousesports stick a player on the railing and actually just play inside the smoke and kind of just do a bait and switch play, essentially, off Kerrigan's op on the corner. Endpoint had no idea that Frozen was going to do something crazy risky like that. It's a really neat change-up from mousesports in an overtime situation to pull out something just completely different, to put the wool over Endpoint's eyes, essentially. Well, Flames will think better of that flashbang. Not what he wanted, but not a big deal.
Flamesy throwing that same Molotov that we saw dispatch of Chris J earlier on with the flashbang. A beautiful little 1-2 combo. Didn't have the flash this time around, though.
Yeah. Unfortunately, bounced it into himself. There was also no one in the corner that time, so not going to come into play, but again, not a big deal. Everyone's still standing, and it's an even score, even round, 5-on-5, as Endpoint are getting some headway up catwalk this time around. They do have Surreal in position, or excuse me, Mighty Max in position on the stairs. Going to put their mid-B smokes out in play, as well as a flash trying to control middle also. They will be able to get out.
It did feel like a last-second call last time when they were eyeing up a potential B-Rap to go catwalk. So this time, they do elect to go for the B hit. They spot Rops out in the open. The barrel of the gun betrays him, protruding around the corner. And he was the lone B defender. Now they can look to try and jump on top of the stragglers of the CTs. Their economy justifies a rebuy. They have no AKs by their side either. So mousesports may as well go in for this. Go for broke, knowing that you can fall back onto another buy. Now they've been dwindled away. The sheep culled to just Carrigan, the shepherd, and BMAS. His trusty companion has now been slaughtered behind him. Carrigan flicks in for one. Good damage to Flames, but he's gonna go down. There's no chance for the IGL to remedy the situation, and Endpoint have their 5th match point now.
Yeah, you could just tell that mousesports was setting up their defense based on what they felt throughout this entire game, which is how often they've been picked apart on either fast, long A controls from Endpoint or those really heavy A set pieces. And so they've never really felt comfortable rotating to deal with mid-B plays. They've really suffered on the A defense so often. So I feel like that's what allowed there to be such a vulnerability where Rops essentially stuck defending B alone. They were so worried about another A set piece that they never really felt like they could maneuver themselves over to help defend against that attack, and it certainly put Rops in a very tough spot. It was a tough ask for him to do anything when he's being blindsided from middle as he's trying to focus on B tunnels with the op, and Endpoint take full advantage, and now they have themselves at map and series point once more.
Another chance at the elusive GG. Endpoint desperately trying to hold on to anything they can get. Good flashbang. BMAS, though, cannot convert. It did hit multiple players. I don't know how fully. We saw Mighty Max at least covering his eyes, but still comes out with the kill. And now Chris J getting tagged from the Molotov, almost a carbon copy play. This time he does get a kill, but it's not going to be worth it. A 2-for-1 trade in favor of Endpoint, spreading this CT side out that much thinner, putting more pressure on Carrigan with the AWP. Oh, that's so unfortunate. He lands the shot and crucial, but it's a leg shot. It looked like he may have flicked up to his chest, but they do exchange blows, and now Carrigan has to fall off.
Yeah, both of their oppers are actually on the A site right now. They're trusting on Frozen with the M4 who's playing outside B to kind of defend against a mid-B split. They're actually going a late long A. Now, there is Kerrigan watching this position, but he might have to worry about the cat cross as well. Now the utility will start to key him in that it's a long A push. He misses his first shot. He's going to go for the repeat. That will land, but now he's in no man's land with rifles swarming. Flames hits the headshots all on Rops now on the site.
Rops with the first, leaving it all on Robin. Not looking good. 10 seconds. We go to double OT. This game is not ending just yet. Endpoint miss out on a 5th match point. At some point, this may very well come back to haunt them because they've missed so many opportunities now.
I feel like we've been teased by the gods of Valve. They were like, oh yeah, you had that 16-1 to start off the series? Well, let me show you what's going to happen at the end of the day. But at the same time, it's been really good Counter-Strike, and I've often enjoyed it. So I'm happy to see it keep going, at least for a bit longer. Vince, on the other hand, screaming eternally, wanting to go to bed, I'm sure. But it's been good CS, and I feel like maybe even you're still in high spirits despite the marathon you've been through today.
Hey, I like genuinely really enjoy casting this stuff, and you know, I hope it goes on a bit longer. If I'm being honest, sure, I'm tired. I'm sure the players are screaming internally like, "Come on, get the win." I'm all good. I'm all good. I'm ready to stay for a while longer.
I have no excuses. It's 5:30 in the evening. I'm in prime time right now, so keep it coming.
Well, we have at least 4 more rounds.
Yes.
That's if one team goes flawless, which I would edge a bet that won't happen. I think this game has been far too close to justify coming up with that idea. Rops, though, taking the AWP, making it use of it. Not the first time he's taken it, though. He's even put it on the T side. But Robin with the spray. Knows BMAS was spotted in pit. They don't dare peek him, though. They're happy to slow this down, and being a player behind, it puts more pressure on them. Molly tossed in towards Flamesy, using that blue container as a bit of cover. More grenades firing in. Flamesy in all kinds of trouble, and he can't withstand. Mighty Max 1 versus 4. Down he goes. mousesports take first blood in our second overtime.
That's like one of the first early round long A battles I feel like mousesports have come out on top of this entire game on their defense. I feel like more often than not, it's been kind of an even trade or they've outright lost it. That time, they really put Flames in tough position. They locked them into blue bin with utility, and they were able to work together. Big kills from BMAS there from the pit. He's had a really quiet game overall, but he came up huge in that particular round, which may be all that's required. It does get them that 1-round edge as we race to the winning score of 22 is the goal.
Well, we started the day off with a marathon mousesports map on Mirage, and we finished with one. Fitting, really, to come full circle. That time they won against Contact. Will they be the overtime kings again? The opening round certainly suggests it's a possibility. Robin tossing in the smoke. The pressure and presence that is being applied over on the B side won't be enough to justify a rotate as far as mousesports are concerned. They stay in position. They've seen this one too many times.
Yeah. See Surreal setting up utility at middle to kind of put some pressure on that and maybe force attention to be drawn towards that direction while they focus up for a late long A push, which indeed there is no one covering that other than Kerrigan with the op on Goose. But he has 2 players at Catwalk, so he can focus his full attention on this angle. Flashes, though, may kind of push him out of holding it, and indeed he is forced to backpedal towards the quad box. So map control being taken from Endpoint, but now they have to actually roll out that next stage of the attack. They have to actually make their way into the site. They do have smokes for Cross, I believe, but there is a gap, I think, that Frozen spotting. Now it's covered.
Flamesy on the cross, applying the kills across, but he does get picked off too. Mighty Max now stepping up with the AK, trying to spray in for a couple of frags. There's one transitioning into a second, but Robin takes that away. There's a Molotov under Carrigan's feet. He had to move, and with 8 seconds left, cutting it mighty fine. Endpoint looking good to take it, and to make matters worse for mousesports, Frozen has just been obliterated through the smoke down to 17. So any hope they had of a retake has now been entirely dashed. Endpoint tie us back up again.
That's the first time I've really seen Endpoint go for like a really late long A push like that. Either they've gone for it early or they haven't gone for it at all. They've been more focused on catwalk crosses with pretty much all 5 players or going for those mid B splits. So again, each team is trying to dig deep into their playbook and come up with something new, something fresh that their opposition has not seen yet. We saw it with mousesports, you know, going for like that crazy playing inside the smoke play last OT. And this round, we see Endpoint coming out with the late long A. And with great success, even with Kerrigan hitting a couple of shots, they limited his impact and were able to overwhelm the site. And now they've tied this thing right back up at 19 apiece. By the way, thanks for all the subs and bits and all that good stuff. Appreciate you supporting the channel over here. That's putting in the hard work, covering these qualifiers, and you've responded in kind, so we really appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. And cheers to Dust as well for joining me, but But speaking like this game is nearly over, I almost feel like there's a little few more twists and turns yet, a few more chapters to be written from both teams.
More snakes and ladders to
climb
and fall through.
That's a banging game, by the way.
No one knows what that is in chat. For the average age of our chat is probably too low to get that.
That was my childhood, man. Snakes and ladders, chess, and Monopoly. Ooh, Frozen gets burned. I think he got tagged as well through the smoke. Rops finds a straggling Surreal and puts the second nail in the coffin of this round. Doing an exquisite job with that flashbang. It's beautiful from Rops, but he won't be taking all the accolades and all the kills home for this round. Crucial makes sure that's not the case. 52 HP left. And now Smoke affords Crucial the chance to try and push out, but it won't be working in terms of taking the round itself. He does get smashed by BMAS, and mousesports lead 20-19.
Yeah, Monopoly was like... You know how people say friendships die playing Among Us? Monopoly was the original friendship killer. And then it was Risk.
True. Yep, true.
And now it's Among Us. I've seen more friendships die over games of Monopoly and Risk than I'd care to elaborate on.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I held grudges over Risk. When you play with multiple people and someone allied against you, mate, that I was fuming. Absolutely fuming.
You also always argued over rules, I feel like, in that game. That was like the most... rule debated game probably of all time. But now we must turn our attention back to Dust 2 here between mousesports and Endpoint to see who's going to get that DreamHack Open Fall slot here and now rather than having to worry about it tomorrow. Mousesports do have that slight advantage coming off the first half of OT number 2, up 2019. Just need 2 more to go ahead and put this to rest. Endpoint, of course, looking to try to fight themselves back. A clean sweep would get them the victory. A split would lead to another overtime.
It most certainly would. One more round needed for mousesports to secure at least overtime. They will have their eyes on the prize, though, of taking this outright. This is really where mental fortitude comes into play, where energy levels need to spike. Surreal continues to twist the knife alongside Crucial, and both the AWPers sing and ring out for frags. mousesports instantly on the back foot. All 3 of them congregate, cluster together on long side. No one is actually home. They're mainly focusing towards the catwalk and CT side of the map. And with 2 smokes left, they can bypass a lot of these threats and get onto the site, mousesports.
Yeah, the problem is, though, is that Endpoint knows exactly what's happening here. They already have 3 defenders in position with the 4th already on the way. And even if they concede the bomb plant, they are just going to be so well set up to retake this. They're already even doing chip damage with utility before they even have to show themselves. mousesports are so far behind in this situation. Oh, my God. Of course that would happen at some point this game.
He's gone and done it. mousesports may turn this around yet. Do not write them off. Post-plant. 2v4. Suddenly becomes a trio of CTs. Make it a duo. Carrigan ripping and stripping away. Ripping and tearing through Endpoint, but Crucial returns the favor. Frozen tagged down to a measly 30 HP, and that M4 from Crucial on point to deliver. Endpoint take 20. All even again.
I do appreciate the Doom soundtrack reference in that. The
old banger, isn't it?
It is. Oh, man. That's like workout music for me. When I go to the gym, I just throw on some rip and tear, and I rip and tear my muscles with heavy objects that I pick up and put back down. Speaking of picking up and putting back down, the hopes and dreams of Endpoint fans and mousesport fans alike have really been through the roller coaster today, and it only continues. I'm actually surprised how close mousesports came to winning that round, despite the many disadvantages lodged against them. They actually still put up a good fight, but it just was not enough in the end. It was just too much to overcome, as Endpoint had just chipped away at them early on. And now it's square again at 20 apiece.
And it's very true. It just goes to show that mousesports and Endpoint, I mean, you can't just be one-sided on this one. They're both such a threat. Even in like 2v4, 2v5s, you can never take your eyes off them. Doing so will cause you a lot of grief. But a triple stack, but Surreal's up and he denies it. Dust. He knows what's coming up.
That's so nasty that he shut that down. Because no one's tried it yet. That's the first attempt this game at that triple stack, which is uncommon anyway. And then Surreal just tore it apart. That's got to be tough on mousesports.
Very tough indeed. And they bounce back into this round. The presence that is being shown towards middle with some grenades preceding the push gives up the idea generally towards Endpoint of what's coming up next. But what can they realistically do about it? Endpoint taking damage in the form of Mighty Max at the back of the site with the AUG. Meanwhile, Surreal dropping down the bomb, and oh, that hold could not have gone any better. It's beautiful. The two UK players working in tandem and batter away mousesports. It's another match point for Endpoint.
My goodness, man. Like, obviously, the initial pick from Surreal was a tough one to overcome for mousesports, but even after that, they had good positioning. They had Kerrigan playing outside the window. They had 3 coming through tunnels. They still had a pretty good split in the cards, but man, the two CTs in B just trusted each other to cover their angles properly, and they won all their fights. mousesports never even had a crack at that site. They started off 4v5 right away, and they didn't get anything to recover. And now they are 1 round away from having to say sayonara to a slot tonight and having to come back and play tomorrow. Endpoint looking to double up their upset victories against mousesports. They were the ones who put mousesports down here in the lower bracket in the first place, and now they may be sending them either further into the pits. We'll see if mousesports can rise to the occasion, but with only a Galil in Kerrigan's hands, it's going to be a tough ask.
What could be the biggest test that they have been up against the entire day. mousesports put it all on the line to get us into yet another overtime. Molly down does force Crucial away, so it's a success and allows them a bit of safety to pincer and push into the vacated areas. That's all well and good, but what they do with it, oh, that grenade dust. It just shredded Kerrigan and Frozen. That's pretty much 100 HP for that $300 investment.
Yeah, now Crucial can use that to start getting closer and closer with his own AWP. He now decides to back off. They're using their utility really well. They're staggering it to keep mousesports halted at this corner. They will now dump their smokes and Molotovs towards Goose, but another counter-incendiary comes into play. It's burning them as they try to push in.
It burns them. They get finished off by Crucial. Frozen needs to get up close. He needs to start making some plays happen. A 3v5 and a weakened Kerrigan on top of it. No more grenades to play with. Flash up and over. Won't be bothering Chris J. Meanwhile, a player stuck in Goose, but they're behind the smokes. They can't really help their teammates for the time being, and it won't really do much to navigate themselves into this round victory. Chris J. makes short work of the hiding Robin and is looking for more. Keep in mind, he started this game very slowly. Is this the moment where Chris J flexes those veterancy muscles and makes this work for mousesports? Post-plant now coming to fruition, and the CTs need to scramble together. They have some utility. They've got a couple smokes. They've got a flash, but Rops has an AK, and that's all that he requires. He sprays through both, 2-on-2 with the CTs, getting back onto the site. The bomb planted for short. They're going to lock down this right now.
Oh, no.
Oh, they're going to go for the full defuse. They get it. What a way to win the game for Endpoint. mousesports have been shattered. I didn't think they'd stick on that dust.